Hello, hello, hello. This is Born Woke, and this is our video regarding the title "War on the Street." Right. So we need to talk about something that's old, distant, abstract, but it's very real and it's current. It's a current thing. You may have heard the phrase "Insurrection Act," right? In the news this week. Most people don't know what it is, right? And that's understandable because it's a power that's almost never discussed publicly. Okay. And the Insurrection Act is a law that allows a president to deploy the U.S. military inside of the United States against its own people on American soil. That alone should make anybody pause. What makes this moment different is not just that the law exists, it's that it's being publicly threatened in response to protests by this person we call our president. When the military power enters civilian political conflict, the stakes change. People become more vulnerable. Let's look at what was actually said, shall we? Let's look at what he said. Here we go.
Threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota, where people have been protesting since an ICE officer shot and killed a woman last week. The president says local leaders are encouraging violence.
As ABC's Olivia Rubin reports, the mayor of Minneapolis is calling for peace.
So, that's the headline. That's the headlines. Listen.
Tensions boiling over in Minnesota. Protesters clashing with law enforcement at the scene of another shooting involving a federal officer. The Department of Homeland Security claiming a federal law enforcement officer shot a Venezuelan man in the leg, saying he took off during a traffic stop and tried to evade arrest and violently assault an officer. Adding 2 other people joined in, attacking the officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle. DHS saying the officer fired to defend his life, hitting that man in the leg. The man and the officer were taken to the hospital, the other 2 taken into custody. The protests and clashes happening daily for the last week after an ICE officer shot and killed Renee Good, a U.S. citizen.
This is not creating safety.
Mayor Jacob Fry slamming the immigration operation, saying it's putting a strain on local police and is not sustainable. He says he's calling for peace.
For anyone that is taking the bait tonight, stop. We cannot counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos.
And President.
So, what you just heard, it matters. Not just because of the words, but because of what they signal. We're going to see what the president is going to say about this. Let's see. Let's see what he means when he says what he says. Let's see.
Trump now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would allow him to deploy the military on American soil. So, as he says, to quickly put an end to the travesty taking place.
The Insurrection Act gives the president extraordinarily broad discretion, and courts generally defer to the president with respect to just how much discretion that is. So it is potentially a dramatic expansion and militarization of domestic law enforcement.
See, the Insurrection Act is not a routine law and order tool. It's meant for extremely, extremely rare circumstances. Situations where states have completely failed to control the unruly behavior of its citizens, or where the constitutional rights are being violently blocked. It was not designed to be used as a warning. It was not designed to be pressure on governors or cities. And it was never meant to be casually floated in public discourse like this piece of shit president keeps doing. When a president talks openly about deploying troops domestically, even if it does not happen The threat itself has power. And this president, with his thuggish-like behavior, keeps doing it. I believe he's waiting for the black people to hit the street, the brown people to hit the street. I believe that's the reason why he hasn't called it as of yet. I don't see no black and brown people out there, so I ain't calling it. I don't want to call it on my white folks, but I definitely call it on black folks. I definitely am. I got the power. I have the mandate by the white people to control the black people, so we got to wait till the black people come out there. This is what I think. This is what I think. Okay? This is what I think.
And the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche also trying to blame Democrats in Minnesota, saying he is focused on stopping what he says is their terrorism, saying that that is not a threat, but a promise. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, New York.
Okay. So, look closely at what we are seeing, what is coming down on the pike. This is not a foreign battlefield. This is not a war zone. These are American citizens in the American streets, American protesters, American law enforcement is doing this. And where is this language becoming more critical except from that president? When protests are framed as insurrection, the public becomes more willing to accept extraordinary responses. When you say terrorist, you say vulnerability, you say X, Y, and Z, that's how people accept this wild stuff that happens. That's how the line shifts slowly, subtly, decisively. The danger here isn't just whether troops are deployed today. The danger is the idea of them being used becomes familiar, which is what I knew was going to happen when he said he wanted to deploy the military onto the American people. And people were saying, yeah, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Once you allow that to happen, this is when we're in trouble. This is when we are in trouble. Okay, authority is being framed like we need to save you from these rebel rousers, these insurrectionists, these terrorists. It's not about cooperation. It's about restraint or de-escalation. It's about command. And that raises a question that should concern every American person, regardless of their party. At what point does protest, a protected democratic act, become defined as a threat serious enough to justify military involvement? Because once that definition expands to what they wanted to expand it to, it doesn't stay limited to one use. Now you can go and do whatever you want to an American person. Just like Renee Good was shot, now they're trying to expand the definition of what an ICE person is supposed to do in order to justify what he did. Today, it's about immigration policies. Tomorrow, it could be about labor strikes, civil marches, civil rights marches, environmental demonstrations. History shows us that powers expanded during moments of fear are rarely rolled back. But then again, there's another layer here that deserves attention too. Threatening the Insurrection Act doesn't just send a message to protesters. It sends a message to the governors and the mayors and the journalists and the ordinary citizens. The message is clear. Challenge federal authority and we gonna stomp you out. Challenge federal authority and we may not be civil. That changes how people show up. That changes whether people speak. That changes whether we can have dissent in this country. Democracies don't usually collapse in dramatic moments. They erode over time through normalization, through repetition, silence. And one of the most vulnerable, dangerous places in moments like this is, well, it hasn't happened yet. It ain't happened yet. We ain't that close. We ain't close to fascism. We nowhere near fascism. Why y'all keep calling it fascism? Why y'all keep calling it authoritarianism? And why do I keep saying we're marching towards it? We're marching towards it. You don't have to agree with every protest. You don't have to like disorder. You don't even have to oppose the strong law enforcement. But you should always be cautious about when military power is used into civilian lives. Because once leaders learn that threats alone can control your behavior, they're going to use it again. They're going to use it again and again and again. It ain't just about Minnesota, okay? It's about how comfortable we become with a politician, a piece of shit president like we got, throwing out the Insurrection Act, trying to scare people. And history is very clear about this shit. When governments start treating dissent like the enemy, like the terrorists, like the insurrectionists, like a person that's anti-American, the country itself becomes the battlefield. And this is what I think they want. They want you to be, they want to stomp us out. They want to stomp us out. This is what we need to be watching for. This is what we need to be fighting for. Not just today, but moving forward. We should not allow this. We should make our dissent, we should make our unhappiness very much clear. If we allow this, we're going to allow more. We can't allow no more. We can't allow this. We just cannot allow this to happen or continue to happen. But I will see you all in the next one. I will see you all in the next one.